welcome back to the Mike and Andrew Show. I'm Andrew Serwick here again with Mike Meredith. Mike, we had a thriller last night. We're going to get into that in a minute, but how are you doing tonight, man?
Pretty good, man. A lot of exciting times in sports right now, man, as we come into the end here of some of these seasons and the start of new ones as well coming soon.
Yes, sir. Also, we got the NHL and the NBA seasons heating up as well. I know All Star Game is coming up for both of those sports, and we'll get into that uh, in a couple weeks here. But right now, man, we're going to change things up. We're going to get right into the national title game, college football. Last night, we had an absolutely amazing game. Michigan routes Washington 34 to 13. Um, Michigan's defense did exactly what they needed to last night. They held Washington to just 13 points. That's the lowest amount of points that Washington had scored all season. And offensively, Michigan did pretty much everything they needed to. There was a couple drives where they didn't look too good. Washington's defense actually stood up very well against Michigan for about 2.5 quarters, from about the second quarter onwards up until about mid fourth quarter. Their defense did everything very, very perfectly, containing Michigan's offense. But those last 7 minutes, they kind of just broke down and kind of just slipped away from them. So let's get into it. Kicking off the scoring, we had, it was a 0-0 game for the first about 10 minutes of the game. Then Donovan Edwards breaks off a 41-yard run. Washington responds with a field goal. Not the kind of response that they wanted, but Michigan, put up a good stop. And then Donovan Edwards again responds to them with a 46-yard run. And just on those two carries alone, he had 97 yards. He came into this game with 393 yards all season. He put up 25% of his yards that he had all season long in just two carries in this game. He broke out at a very, very, very good time.
Yeah, that was a crazy start to the game. Washington's defense just got exposed, man, especially earlier on. They definitely tightened it up later in the game, but yeah, Donovan Edwards, what a big way to start the game for Michigan.
Yeah, and then it was a field goal in the second quarter, and then and then it was a nice touchdown by Washington to get it to 10-17 before halftime. They're still trailing. They came, they started the the second half with the ball, and then Penix throws a pick almost immediately to start that second half, and Michigan just scores a field goal on it, and then Washington responded with another field goal of its own, and then then the next 15 or next 20 minutes of the game, nobody scored, and then some just lots of back and forth with three and outs, or get a couple first downs and then punt the ball away. And then eventually Michigan started capitalizing on some mistakes from Washington, and Corum put up two touchdown runs to really seal this game. And it was obviously a great game for Corum. 21 carries, 134 yards, and those two touchdowns in the fourth quarter. Penix had a pretty decent game going, 27 for 51, 255 yards, but he also threw those two picks. Penix made a lot of mistakes in this game, missing wide open Odunze in the second quarter. They only had, I think, like two or three plays that were over 20 yards the entire game, which is not what we know Washington for. Michigan's defense, man, was putting a ton of pressure on Penix all night, though.
Yeah, they were. They were beating him up, even though it didn't seem like he was getting sacked a lot. Just every play he was getting hit after the after you throw it and getting pressure, and they did what they needed to do up front. They rushed Penix on a lot of those throws, and you could see by the end, man, he was beaten up. Man, that Michigan front uh, was crazy good.
Yeah, that front seven, I mean, obviously best in the country. I mean, the best tackling defense in the country, according to what PFF says. I mean, yeah, that front seven was just. They sacked him only once in the entire game, but they were hitting him after the ball was out. I mean, not, egregiously, just, a couple, a second after the ball's out, he's getting hit. So, I mean, um, he, they were getting a lot of pressure on him. He was moving out of the pocket, and he can throw on the run, but he's much better when he's settled in the pocket, and it showed last night. I mean, he was missing a lot of guys late in that game just because he was under so much immense pressure. That offensive line of Washington, Joe Moore award winning offensive line. Um, Very, very, very good offensive line. Just that Michigan front seven just wore them down because they're able to just rotate so many guys on that defensive line alone, keeping those guys fresh. So that offensive line had a lot of work cut out for them. And Michigan's secondary, you gotta give credit to them too because they were able to shut down for the most part these really elite level receivers that Washington had. Not a lot of guys getting open. Coverage was really good. And then they started playing a little bit of a softer coverage, so Washington was just throwing it very short routes. But Michigan hats to the ball immediately. But they were able to take away the deep ball, which is what Penix's strength is, which is what these receivers' strength is, and their secondary did an absolutely great job shutting them down.
Yeah, they did. Will Johnson had a pretty solid game. He was matched up with the Dunze most of the game. A couple of their other receivers, McMillan had some big plays at points, but for the most part, they kept those guys pretty much in check throughout the entire game, and they definitely, got to credit their defense. Michigan's offense was a little bit shaky at points, but they came through as well. McCarthy had some big runs to get him into plus territory, and like I said, just the run game was unstoppable with Edwards and Quorum uh, getting those TDs.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I mean, yeah, JJ was doing things with his feet, and he didn't really do a whole lot of that this year, and he finally broke out a couple big runs, and yeah, a lot of people don't realize that JJ's that quick, man, and I had some buddies of mine say, "God damn, I didn't know JJ could actually run like that." And I was like, yeah, he can. We just don't use him like that a whole lot anymore. And um, you know, he's a hard runner, man. He's so good. But yeah, man, Michigan's offense just was able to do everything that they needed to, and the defense played absolutely spectacular. So Michigan, your national champions for 2023-2024. Um, they say that the SEC is the best conference in the country, but I think the Big Ten kind of owns the SEC now because you had effectively two SEC teams in the playoff versus two Big Ten teams, and both Big Ten teams won. Um, so the Big Ten owns the SEC, so take that. But yeah, very very good game, especially on Michigan's end. Washington, as good as they have were all season, I just did not think that they really. I thought it'd be a lot closer of a game, to be honest, and it was for the most part up until late in that fourth quarter. Um, but at the end of the day, it ended up with a pretty sizable Michigan win. So that's gonna wrap up the college football season. Great season. A lot of good games. A lot of drama. The Michigan stuff with the whole cheating stuff. We're gonna get into that eventually. We're kind of gonna wait to see what the NCAA does in terms of suspending Harbaugh or not, or how they discipline the school for the whole cheating scandal. And I know a lot of people are saying that this is asterisk year, but they beat Ohio State without having to cheat this year. They beat Bama without it, and now they beat Washington. So I mean, yeah, they were good enough to do it without cheating, but they still did it. Um, but at the end of the day, the last 5-6 games of the season were all doing it the right way. And they were good enough to do it without the cheating, and the last couple of years too, but they still did it. But we'll get into that eventually. But now we are gonna move on to the NFL. It was the last week of the regular season. Lots on the line. I know, Mike, you were excited about a lot of these games. So let's get right into it. Saturday, we had two games. We had the Ravens and Steelers facing off in Baltimore. The Steelers winning 17-10. Ravens obviously sat everyone they could. They had nothing to play for. And the Steelers took advantage of it and got themselves a playoff spot.
Yeah, probably the weakest playoff team in my opinion of the group, either them or Green Bay. Steelers, they just find a way to sneak in like they always do, but I think that they're gonna get handled first round. But yeah, they win. They suffer the TJ Watt injury though, which definitely hurts them moving forward.
Yeah, unfortunately for them, they were playing to get into the playoffs, and they lost TJ Watt because of it. So, yeah, not gonna be a good first round for them for sure. And then our other game, the Colts hosted the Texans. The Texans winning 23-19. This was a go or go home game for either team here. It was a close game throughout the entire game, um, but the uh, the Texans were able to pull it off. C.J. Stroud looked like he did, before his concussion protocol. Looking absolutely incredible. 20 for 26, 264 yards, 2 touchdowns. Nico Collins having, the majority of those yards, 195 yards on 9 receptions from Nico Collins. Indy's defense, at times were able to stop this Houston offense, and then at other times they just gave up big plays, especially to Nico Collins and C.J. Stroud connecting. But yeah, Houston wins their division. I don't think anyone saw that coming.
No, and I allude to one of the points you brought in for at the start of the season. Might have to do a whole episode on this. We'll have to see. Just looking back on some of the early predictions, and one of the guys in the panel said bold prediction for the Texans to get 7 wins, and we were like, man, I don't even see them getting to 7 wins. Like, that's a lot, and they got to 10 wins, man. Houston, probably, if not the most exciting and most shocking young team to come out this year.
Yeah, no, I don't think anyone had them going over 7 wins this year. Maybe if they did, it would be 8. But winning their division, getting 10 wins, I don't think anyone saw that coming. I thought everyone thought basically, the Jags would win this division easily, but we'll get into that in a minute. The Lions hosted the Vikings. Lions winning 30-20. Uh, Lions lost Sam Laporta in this game. He might be back for the first game of the playoffs. We don't know yet, but to me, it was stupid to play any of the starters, because you were gonna be banking on both Philly and Dallas to lose, uh, and you having to win to get the number two seed, and there was no way in hell either of those teams were gonna not play all their starters to try to win their division, and so you already knew it was not gonna work out for you, and you still decided to play your starters. It's a risk that Dan Campbell took, and it did not pay off because we're still the three seed, and it didn't, and he lost Sam Laporta, which is not good for the Lions. That said, Sam Laporta did have a pretty decent game going up until that point, scoring a touchdown early on in the game. Jared Goff, 23 for 32, 320 yards, two touchdown passes. And David Montgomery looked pretty solid with 40 yards on the ground and a touchdown. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 144 yards, looking really good. Justin Jefferson, though, for Minnesota, man, 192 yards in this game on 12 receptions. Nick Mullins actually played a pretty decent game outside of the two interceptions he had, but Lions defense able to shut them down when they needed it most.
Yeah, they were able to shut him down, and yeah, it was tough for the Lions. Felt like a lot of Murphy's Law going on, man. Just like anything that could go wrong was going wrong. Like Laporta got hurt. Khalif Raymond got banged up pretty bad. St. Brown had problems. All the guys seemed like they were getting injured, and it was like, did not need that. But, I kind of wish they would have rested some people, but at the same time, too much rest can also be a bad thing going in the playoffs. So they got their reps in. It just sucks that Laporta is going to be out now with that hyperextended knee. But if we can win, he should be back in time for the rest of the playoffs. So that would be good. But yeah, man, Jefferson had another big game, and the Vikings. I don't know how much longer he's going to be on that team because they're wasting his talent there, man. I think he's going to pull a Randy Moss and he's going to get the heck out of there pretty soon.
Yeah, I think he's gonna be requesting trade at some point, or just play until his contract ends. Toilet bowl of the week, we had the Panthers hosting the Buccaneers. Bucks winning 9-0. Nothing to speak of in this game. I mean, Tampa Bay didn't look good at all offensively. Defensively, they looked good enough against a Carolina team that was playing for nothing. But I don't know, man. This is embarrassing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, man. I mean, they did not look good offensively at all against this very bad Carolina defense.
Yeah, Tampa didn't look too good, but we'll see how they do in the playoffs. Hopefully, they can do better here. Panthers stink. They just need to rehaul that whole organization. The owners messed up, and they just fired the GMs. So hopefully they can figure something out because that organization's a dumpster fire right now.
Yeah, the Bengals hosted the Browns. The Bengals winning 31-14. Browns didn't play anyone in this game. They had Jake Browning in. No, they had Driscoll in. I'm looking at the wrong team. But yeah, they had Driscoll in, who obviously played like shit because, well, he is shit. Just yeah, Cleveland didn't care. It's not like they were winning their division, and they had a playoff spot, so they just rested everyone they possibly could. So Cincinnati took advantage of it, got themselves to 9-8, but it doesn't really matter for them.
No, it didn't really matter. They couldn't get into the playoffs, so that was pretty much dead. And the Browns had already locked up the 5 seed, so they rested all their key players. So yeah, I saw this was like a 31-0 blowout at one point, so wasn't too surprised to see that with the Browns not playing anyone.
No, not surprising at all. Uh, the the Patriots hosted the Jets. Jets winning 17-3. This was just a very, very poor game. It looked like the Patriots were purposely trying to lose this game. The Jets really had nothing to play for either, but they end up winning this game 17-3. Not a whole lot to talk about, but question for you: do you think Bill Belichick is gone?
I do. I think it's going to be, of course, that whole parting ways. Like they're not going to fire him. It's just going to be like a. They're going to claim it's a mutual thing, and I don't know if I think that it's time for him, man. I mean, he's getting really old for being a coach, and you know, would we like to see Belichick on another team? It'd be interesting, but I just can't see it, man. I think that it's his time to go. This Patriots team is going to be bad for years to come, which, the Patriots were good for 25 years, so finally their time that they can start being bad. So, yeah, I think it's time for Belichick to go.
Yeah, I think he's gone. I think maybe he goes and coaches somewhere for another 3 seasons or so, but other than that, I don't think he's really going to go anywhere. I think you have to be kind of desperate at this point to want to hire him. I mean, he's 72 years old. He's not going to be coaching much longer. The Saints hosted the Falcons. Saints winning 48-17. They were fighting for a playoff spot, hoping maybe Tampa Bay would lose, but they end up falling just short of the playoffs, and you know they beat Atlanta pretty handedly. Atlanta was up 14-7 going into the second quarter, and then from there it was just all Saints, and pretty dominant game from them. Derek Carr played a really good game for once, not throwing any picks surprisingly. 22 for 28, 264 yards, 4 touchdowns for him, just looking really good. Saints, they were better than I expected this year, that's for sure. And then also Atlanta, um, yeah, they fired their coach on the plane ride back. No, quite literally, they told their coach that he's fired on the plane ride back to Atlanta. And I can't blame them at all because they don't know how to use Bijan Robinson. I mean, have you seen Bijan run? They don't use him at all. They don't use Pitts at all. I mean, they have all these weapons and they don't use them at all. So firing um, firing them obviously just you know was gonna happen.
Yeah, this my man Arthur Smith, man, pulled his Lovey Smith this year, man. Well, Lovey Smith did the big FU to the Texans this year. I mean, Arthur Smith basically did the same this year with the Falcons. I mean, he had that whole play with the Saints in victory formation. They scored at the end. He gave his piece. He knew he was. I mean, I think he knew he was pretty much gone after that game. So gave his piece to the coach. Went out like a G. Arthur Smith, man. But yeah, Falcons, they got a lot of work to do. Got to utilize Bijan and Kyle Pitts and get Desmond Shitter out of there and actually draft a good quarterback. And the Saints, they lost, but they got Jamal Williams his touchdown.
Yeah, it turns out it was like a player decision to run that play to get Jamal Williams his only touchdown. And what's funny about that is he kept talking so much crap about the Lions because the Lions didn't re-sign him, and he only scored 1 touchdown this year, and it was a pity touchdown from your team. So yeah, there's a reason the Lions didn't re-sign you. But yeah, keep talking all your shit, man. The Titans hosted the Jags, and the Titans win 28-20. The Jags with the biggest choke job of the year. Started off the season 7-2, just to finish 9-8 and miss the playoffs and not win your division when you had a 5-game lead in your division. Or no, it wasn't 5 games. I think it was 4 games, but still ridiculous either way. That yeah. Jacksonville. I don't know what to say, but just shame on you. Trevor Lawrence didn't play his greatest game, but Ryan Tannehill looked pretty decent in this game, and obviously Derrick Henry, 153 yards on 19 touches, very solid game from him. And Tennessee somehow, able to pull off the victory here, but Vrabel still gone as of today.
Yeah, Vrabel gone. He'll definitely get hired somewhere though. He is. at least a competent coach, in my opinion. I think that his style might not be for everyone. He's a very physical coach, so a team that needs some physicality, I think that he'll fit well there. And Derrick Henry played his last game as well for the Titans. He's basically doing a thank you tour on the last game to everyone. So he's definitely gone. Don't know where he's going to end up, but he's probably going to retire here pretty soon, anyways. Running backs don't last that long in the NFL.
Yeah,
Yeah, Titans played spoiler this year for the team that was the Lions last year for the against the Packers. We played spoiler, so the non-playoff team that spoiled this year was the Titans.
yeah, they played big spoiler for sure, and yeah, man. I don't know where he's gonna go, but he's either gonna retire or go somewhere. And Vrabel is gonna be very interesting to see where he goes as well. The Cardinals hosted the Seahawks. The Cardinals uh, just falling short. Seahawks winning 21-20. Um, this was a game Seattle needed to win, but they needed some help with some other teams losing to make the playoffs. Didn't really matter though. Green Bay won their game, and Seattle misses the playoffs. And yeah, no, Geno Smith didn't look all too great. Um, Kyler Murray looked pretty decent at times. I thought for sure, this could be a win for the Cardinals, and it was certainly looking like it up until the last 2 minutes of the game. Tyler Lockett with a um, nice touchdown pass from Geno to put Seattle just ahead, and their defense took care of the rest. But ultimately, it was for nothing since they don't make the playoffs.
Yep, definitely a tough scene. Same scenario last year. Packers could have got in, and Lions won, and then Seattle got in. But this year, Seattle did not have the luck fall their way in um, getting that last wild card spot.
Speaking of the Packers, they got their win that they needed, 17-9 over the Bears in Lambeau Field. Uh, you know, it's a it was a pretty decent game, low scoring, but both offenses were kind of looking well. Green Bay's offense was looking good. Chicago's not so much because obviously Justin Fields is dog ass, but Jordan Love 316 yards, 27 for 32, two touchdowns. He looked really good. But ultimately, you know, they get themselves into the playoffs, and I think that was kind of the most important part. I don't think they're going to do well in the playoffs, but they got themselves in the playoffs, so good for them.
Yeah, it was good for the Packers finally getting in, and definitely a storied franchise that usually makes the playoffs. So they're back in it, and the Bears they lost, but they definitely played better at the end of the year. They came up with some bigger wins, and for them to even finish 7-10 is pretty impressive, to be honest with you, considering where they started. But they could have had two top five picks, man, if they would have just kept losing. So that's definitely tough. But they got the number one pick again this year. We'll see what they do with it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do, and yeah, the Chargers hosted the Chiefs. The Chiefs winning 13-12. This was a terrible game for both teams. I mean, just a lot of field goals. Obviously Kansas City was resting everyone they possibly could. And LA just had nothing to play for, but they still lost to the Kansas City backups, which is just embarrassing. Um, and yeah, the Chiefs get a nice win. They move up to 11-6, but didn't really matter for them. I think either way they would have had the 2 seed here.
Yeah, so yeah, they definitely would have still gotten that two seed. So yeah, definitely, definitely a boring game though, like you said, for both these teams.
Yeah, that's for sure. Vegas hosted Denver. Vegas winning 27 to 14. Um, Obviously, Denver was just doing everything they possibly could to lose this game to improve their draft pick. The Raiders just didn't really care, so they went out there. They played a pretty decent game, and yeah, no. Vegas gets a nice win here. Aiden O'Connell, 20 for 31, 244 yards and 2 touchdowns. Looked really, really good. Um, and yeah, Vegas finishing with 8 wins this year. I didn't see that coming. I thought for sure it'd be under five, but yeah, pretty decent season for the Raiders. I think they're kind of in a good spot going forward outside of their quarterback position.
Yeah, definitely got to upgrade from Aiden O'Connell. Maybe they can find some gem. There's a lot of QB talent in this upcoming draft that they can maybe look at trying to go for in the first or second round. So we'll see, but they probably need help elsewhere as well. But yeah, 8 wins. That's not too bad for, uh, especially what they were projected to get earlier this year.
The Giants hosted the Eagles. The Giants getting the upset win, 27 to 10. You just hate to see it. You just hate to see it. Fuck the Eagles. Look, man, it was. I don't know how the Giants won this game, but they won this game. I mean, it was all Giants in the first half. 24 nothing going into halftime, and then the Eagles scored. Um, their 10 points, and then yeah, just couldn't do anything. Tyrod Taylor had a really good game for the Giants. 297 yards and a touchdown. He did throw a pick. Um, Marcus Mariota was playing for Philly. They were trying to rest Jalen Hurts for the playoffs. Um, but at the same time, they still had a chance at their division, and yeah, they just fall embarrassingly to the Giants here.
Yeah, Eagles are definitely the coldest team going into the playoffs right now. They are ice cold. Eagles fans are ruthless, and they have completely turned on Sirianni. They have basically are calling for him to be fired right now. So, man, if they lose to Tampa, no matter what, he's probably fired. But we'll see if he has any chance of saving his job here. Those Philly fans, man, they are the worst.
They are animals, as C.J. Gardner Johnson has called them. The Niners hosted the Rams. The Rams doing everything they possibly could to lose this game so they didn't have to face Detroit in the playoffs. But the Niners doing a better job of not of trying to lose this game. The Niners fall just a point short to the Rams, 21 to 20. The Rams had Carson Wentz in the game. Um, why I don't know, but yeah, they were trying to do everything they possibly could to not play Detroit in the first round of the playoffs. But guess what happened? And then yeah, obviously San Francisco, they just didn't care. The number one seed in the NFC, so um, they just rested everyone they possibly could, and yeah, the Rams win this one 21-20.
Yeah, both these teams really didn't play anyone. Rams basically were just trying to get Puka Nakua the rookie record, and once that happened, there wasn't much else to play for in this game.
Yeah, that was about it there. Washington hosted Dallas. Dallas winning 38 to 10 to ensure that they win their division. Um, yeah, no, look, the Cowboys they played everyone. They needed to ensure they won their division, because if they lost this game to Washington and Philly actually won that game, they're a wild card team now. So yeah, they just made sure that they won their division, locked up that number 2 seed as well. Washington, yeah, obviously Rivera's gone. Um, they just gave no fucks in this game, and it certainly showed. Sam Howell didn't play very well at all. Granted, he had no one blocking for him at all, so Washington falls to 4-13. I think they have like the number three pick. Um, but yeah, Dallas locks up their division, gets a solid win here over a very bad Commanders team.
Yeah, that Commanders team is just awful, man. Definitely got to restart everything that they had there. They weren't even really that good to begin with, but Dallas ran over another bad team. What's new?
Surprise, surprise. And then lastly, Sunday Night Football. We had the Dolphins hosting the Bills. This was for if the Bills won this, they win the division, and they did exactly that. The Bills win 21-14. Embarrassing performance from Miami. Um, Especially offensively. Tua did not look good at all. The run offense looked terrible. The defense didn't look all too great, despite getting two picks off of Josh Allen. But it didn't matter because they still allowed 359 yards from Josh Allen just in the air alone, plus 67 on the ground from him alone. Um, it was just a tough game for Miami. I thought they for sure could win this game, but especially it being at home. But man, they just looked absolutely awful this game.
So, yeah, Miami here. This was a tough one for them. They really were in a lose-lose situation either way because if they would have won that game, they would have faced the Bills again, who would have been out for revenge after they had just lost and a tough division opponent. Or they would have had the Chiefs, who, even though the Chiefs are memeable, Arrowhead's one of the toughest places to play, regardless of how good the Chiefs are actually doing at that point. And it's going to be really cold weather they're projecting here, which Miami's usually not too good in the cold here. So yeah, it's tough for Miami. So now they got to go on the road. Bills come back, win this division, and they get the easy draw with the Steelers first round. Bills are feeling pretty good, I think, going into the playoffs here.
Yeah, they got to be feeling pretty good. I had that hot take earlier this year, where saying the Bills aren't going to make the playoffs, and then they went on a huge run to completely destroy that take. But yeah, so that wraps up your Week 18 games. Your playoff field is set, and we'll get into the playoff games themselves on Thursday's episode. But right now, we're just going to look at each team individually, just real quick. What you predict how far you think they will go, first round exit, NFC Championship game to the Super Bowl, win the Super Bowl, etc., etc. So we're gonna get into that right now. Let's start with our number one seeds. Um, let's start with the NFC. Let's go with the San Francisco 49ers.
For them, it's Super Bowl or bust, man. Definitely the favorites, I think, in the NFC. I have strong expectations. I mean, they're definitely the favorite. For them, Super Bowl.
For me, I see them at least getting to the NFC Championship game. Super Bowl, it's gonna depend on who they end up actually playing in that NFC Championship game. If it's Detroit, I could very well see Detroit winning that game just because of how things match up. That said, they're probably gonna go to the Super Bowl just because they are just that good. Let's go Baltimore, number one seed in the AFC. How far do you think they go?
Same thing, man. I'm gonna have to go Super Bowl here. They are. I know they don't have really the playoff experience like the Chiefs or even Buffalo in the past few years, even though they've lost, but they have had a lot of big playoff games. Baltimore really hasn't been in a ton of big ones. Lamar hasn't played too well in the ones they have had, but I think they're a better team. Their defense is definitely sharper this year, I feel, and Lamar looks better. I think for them again, they finished off so well that I think it's got to be Super Bowl expectations for them.
I think they win it all. I really do. They are
Yeah, they
just
got the
that good.
great team.
They're that good offensively, defensively. They are stout. I think they can win it all. I think they will win it all. Um, would I be surprised to see them get upset in the AFC Championship game? Because I definitely believe they're at least getting there. just because of the lack of experience. Especially if they played a more experienced team like Buffalo or Kansas City, I could see them falter. But I don't even know if those two teams are going to win or get themselves into that AFC Championship game, man. But I can really honestly see Baltimore winning it all. Let's go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Um, I think I'm going to go first round exit. Sadly, I do think the Eagles will win. I would love though to see Tampa advance, but if they advance, they're definitely getting knocked out the next round. Um, so I say that their ceiling, exceeding expectations, is winning their first round game. But I guess expectations, if you can keep it close with the Eagles, I mean, they should be proud of that. I mean, again, if their division wasn't so damn trash, they probably wouldn't even be in the playoffs right now.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if they were in any other division, they wouldn't even be in the playoffs right now. Neither would any of those teams if you put them in a different division. Uh, yeah, no, I think honestly, it's a first round exit for Tampa Bay. I mean, could I see them beating the Eagles? Well, the Eagles are that cold right now. It's possible, but I just don't see it happening. Let's go with the Cowboys here.
Cowboys, they're gonna fucking choke. They're gonna win their first game. I think they beat Green Bay, but then Detroit is gonna get that payback, baby, and I think they win the first game, and that's it. That's as far as they go.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't think they lose to Green Bay. I would love to see Green Bay beat Dallas, but I just don't see that happening. Let's go with the Browns.
The Browns, this is tricky, man. They've kind of come on the scene. They have such a good defense. Flacco has, Super Bowl experience, but for me, again, I think similar to Dallas. I think they win. They could win their first round matchup, but it's gonna be tough. That's one of the closest games to me is Houston and the Browns. I think the Browns go one win and then they're out from there.
Yeah, I kind of got to agree. I think they can beat the Texans. This is going to be a very, very good game, I think, between them. And we'll preview it, of course, on Thursday's episode. But yeah, I got to go with the Browns at least winning their first game. Maybe getting themselves into that, third round conversation, but I just don't see that happening. Kansas City Chiefs.
Chiefs, I actually have them. This is gonna be tough because I think Miami has a real chance of upsetting them first round. But again, I'm gonna say same logic. They definitely have advantage of that home field advantage and the playoff experience that they have. But I don't see them as Super Bowl contenders. I know a lot of people are gonna say, well, the Chiefs have a chance to go. I think a first round win, and I don't know if they can beat Buffalo or Baltimore. Man, it's gonna be tough with how they've just been this year. Their receivers just keep dropping passes, and they seem so out of sync compared to what they were the last few years.
I honestly, if this game was in Miami, I would say this is a first round exit for the Chiefs. I
Mm-hmm.
really would. The Chiefs are just not that good, especially offensively. The playoffs kind of plays into their hand because defense is king in the playoffs, but and they're really good defensive teams, so I think they can make it at least out of the first round, but after that, I don't know. Um, let's go with the Lions, our home team. Let's talk about them.
Yeah, so for the Lions here, I think that realistically, I would love to see them, of course, go to the Super Bowl, but realistically, I think that their ceiling is going to be the NFC title game. I can't see them beating the 49ers again. I would love to see them go to the Super Bowl here, have those expectations, but I think realistically, NFC title game is where I see them.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're for sure going to win their first home playoff game in Ford Field. From there though, I just if if they play Dallas, that's going to be in Dallas, and you already know Jerry Jones is going to rig that game, paying off the refs. So there's I just don't see him beating Dallas then, because it is Jerry Jones, but Dallas also has a habit of choking, so you never know. Even when they're getting a ton of help from the refs, we've seen it before. They've choked away games with refs, helping them all game long. Um, but yeah, I think honestly, yeah, they could if they can get to the NFC Championship game. That's as far as they go. I don't think they go on to the Super Bowl. They're at least gonna win one game though. They're not. They're not necessarily built for anything past that, though. To be honest with you, I really don't see them getting out of the divisional round, but it is possible for sure. Green Bay Packers.
First round exit. Anything. I saw someone talking about the Packers could lose by 20 and still feel good. Like, they don't have any business really being in here. Again, that seventh team is just kind of a throwaway. They, I do think they should try and not get blown out by Dallas, but if they hang in within 2 touchdowns, that's good for me.
Yeah, no, first round exit. They're not going to beat Dallas. I mean, I would love to see it, but they're just so inexperienced. Dallas has a ton of playoff experience. Yeah. Um, let's go with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Again, same thing as Green Bay. They just need to look at not getting absolutely destroyed first round. They keep it close, somewhat competitive, maybe have a chance, but again, don't see them going anywhere near past the first round.
Yeah, no, they're just same thing as Green Bay. Happy to be here. And then we can kind of fill in the rest, of the teams how we think they'll fare. But real quick, man, give me your Bills take.
Bills, I think that their potential is AFC title game. I don't see them beating Baltimore. I think that Miami or the Chiefs or um, yeah, Miami or the Chiefs for sure can give them trouble. Um, but I think the AFC title game is a good ceiling for them.
Yeah, no, I think we will see a Bills Ravens AFC Championship game. The Bills, they're a good team. They struggle at times, but Baltimore is just so good. I just don't see anyone beating them, at least in the AFC. I think San Francisco could beat them, but yeah, that'd be interesting to see. But yeah, we kind of just fill in, what we think the Eagles can do, what we think the Rams will do, because obviously we think the Rams are gonna fucking lose to the Lions first round. But yeah. Anyways, so that is gonna wrap up tonight's episode. Um, Obviously, we have a lot to talk about going into this weekend. Thursday's episode. We're gonna talk some we're gonna talk obviously all the NFL playoff games. We're gonna talk some NHL. We're gonna talk some NBA as well, just because obviously college football is done now. Unless something comes out about Michigan and the investigation that they're under by the NCAA by Thursday, which I highly doubt we'll see anything. But yeah, Mike, you got anything else you want to add before we go?
Nah, just um, it was a really good week for us Michigan fans and getting that great win. The haters are gonna hate, man. So just let them hate, but we'll enjoy this one, and then hopefully the Lions can make us happy for the Tuesday episode next week.
Yeah, I'm sure hoping so. And so yeah, rate, review, subscribe, help us out. Let us know, what content more you want to hear of. Especially now college football is over. So like I said, we're gonna start talking a lot more NHL and NBA as those seasons are in their full stride now. About halfway through the NHL season now, unless you're Ottawa, because for some reason you're like 5 games behind everyone else. But yeah, man, thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you guys on Thursday.